Hi, Tony Vaughan here. You're very welcome to the FLOW Buoyancy 8-week program. What you should be able to do at the end of the program, or even over the course of the program, is have the tools and techniques to have the presence of mind, if you so wish, of a world-class CEO, a world-class athlete, and a world-class performer. The modules are based on 25 years plus research and development by the Institute of Heart Math in the US, of which I'm a licensed training provider. They're based on world-class proven sports psychology systems, blended in with some ancient Japanese and Chinese philosophy and wisdom. Hopefully you're a little bit intrigued at this stage, maybe not. The modules are designed to assist you with studies, career, sports, leisure and relationships. Pretty much all aspects of life. But before we go any further, we need to ask ourselves some fundamental questions. And the first is this: what has getting stressed or overwhelmed, overthinking, overreacting cost you in the past? It may have been during an interview, maybe a sports and leisure event, it may have been a presentation at work, it may have been an exam, a driving test, first date, second date, best man speech. What has overthinking, getting overwhelmed, overreacting and getting stressed cost you in the past? But more importantly, going forward, what are you likely to miss out on by not having the tools and techniques to remain calm while under pressure and make the right decisions at the right time, that which sets apart world-class CEOs? What are you likely to miss out on by not being able to perform at your best and recover effectively, that which sets apart world-class athletes? And what are you likely to miss out on by not being able to go with the flow of any activity, event or challenge, that which sets apart world-class performers? Okay? It's literally about getting out of your own way. This prefrontal cortex, this thinking, this commenting, judging, latching, associating thoughts, associating memories, striving to be somewhere else, be something else, have something else. It's constantly processing, self-referencing back to yourself. It's about switching this off and getting a whole body intelligence going, a whole body coherence going, and a whole body energetic efficiency with a simple technique, the coherence technique we're going to share with you shortly. Okay? So basically we're going to take you from an incoherent state, if you happen to be in that state, or if not, it gives you the tools that if you are in that incoherent state, so you can go from that state into a coherent state, and that you're in, at that stage, you're in an alert state of awareness and readiness, and ready to go into the flow state on demand, and to be able to play at your best when it counts. Okay? We'll also give you some recovery techniques as well, because you can't stay in the flow state all day long, because you're going to be using up body biochemistry and neurotransmitters that your body doesn't have an endless supply of, unfortunately. So you need some downtime to recover and let your body replenish. Okay? So we'll be looking at going from an incoherent state to a coherent state, and in that alert state of readiness and awareness, ready to go into that flow state on demand for the high value activities and the high peak performance requirements over the course of your day. Okay? So going back to the incoherent state, when you're stressed or overwhelmed, or overthinking, overreacting to maybe a particular situation, a stress or a person or a situation. What happens is your body gets into this fight, flight or freeze mode, and it activates your amygdala, your stress center, and your body gets a quick shot of adrenaline, quickly followed by cortisol, the stress hormone. And it's the stress hormone cortisol that stays in the body for up to 13 hours, creating absolute chaos for 90 minutes. Now, stress is not a bad thing. It's an ingenious evolutionary function of the body, and it is perfect for getting out of somewhere fast or fighting your way out of somewhere. Okay? It's designed that it's intermittent, it's on an infrequent basis. But in today's environment, we're stimulated into this stress state, this fight, flight or freeze state all too often. From the moment we wake up in the morning, we turn on the news, we get stressed, we get overwhelmed, we get angry, we get anxious because we can't change things. We sit behind the wheel of a car, sitting in traffic, getting overwhelmed and anxious about not making the 9 o'clock appointment. We're sitting at the 9 o'clock appointment, we're worried about what the outcome is going to be. We're worried about our friends, our family, our health, our wealth. We're worried about career pressure, peer pressure. There's a lot going on and a lot of processing in this prefrontal cortex. Okay? This commenting, latching, labeling, and striving part of the brain. That's self-referencing everything back to yourself. Okay? It's like having a high-powered laptop running several apps and programs in the background unnecessarily. When you try to do a simple task, it becomes slow and arduous. So basically it gets in your own way. So you want to be in a position where you can strip all that back and, as we say, get a whole body intelligence going, whole body coherence going, and whole body energetic efficiency. Okay. So going back to being stressed and overwhelmed again, to give you an indication of if we allow ourselves, and when I say allow ourselves, because we do have the ability, and we will give you a technique very shortly called the coherence technique, to stop stress in its tracks. It's like a brake, it stops it right there in its tracks. And if you do miss it and the cortisol floods your system, staying in there for 13 hours and creating chaos for 90 minutes, you still have the ability to reverse it, which we'll get on to shortly. But first and foremost, when we're in this stress state and the cortisol is flying around our body, we leave ourselves open to chronic inflammation. And according to medical data, we leave ourselves open to things like poor memory, poor cognitive performance, heart diseases, strokes, diabetes types 1 and 2, obesity, impaired immune system, irritable bowel syndrome, low sex drive, low muscle mass, low bone density, and many more. Because the takeaway here is, in this incoherent state, this overthinking, overreacting, stressed, overwhelmed state, our body is not firing on all cylinders. And as a result, we get an energy drain, we get an energy inefficiency, because our body's not in the coherent state it's designed to function from. Okay? When we're in this stress state as well, what happens is the emphasis goes from our neurons, from our brain, a lot of the blood and oxygen drains down and comes into the peripheries of our body in terms of the hands, the arms, the feet and the legs. And you get this burst of energy to get you out of somewhere fast or fight your way out of somewhere. Okay? The fight, flight or freeze state. So that's all good and well when it's absolutely required, but it's no good to you when you're sitting behind the wheel of a car or sitting behind the wheel of a desk getting or sitting behind a desk getting stressed and overwhelmed by the piling to-do list, causing chaotic communication between the heart, the brain and the nervous system, more specifically the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for the immune system, hormonal system, digestive system and respiratory system. So the takeaway here is, in this incoherent state, as we said earlier, your body is misfiring on all cylinders. Okay? Not ideal. We all know that a high percentage of chronic illnesses and diseases are stress related or attributed to stress. In one study in America, 60 to 80% of primary care doctor visits or GP visits were attributed to stress. But in the same study, the most alarming fact is only 3% of those who presented the symptoms of stress received any stress management help in terms of any intervention technique, something that they can use naturally, because the body has the functionality to combat stress and stop stress in its tracks, which we'll get on to very shortly. So the Institute of Heart Math have this program where you can connect yourself up to a biofeedback device, which basically clips onto your ear, a little photocell. It takes your pulse, sends the pulse through a little box, goes in through a computer, runs an algorithm, goes through a program. Don't need to remember any of this, just you need to understand that it gives your heart representation on a graph. Okay, your heart rhythm or your heart rate variability to be specific. And in this particular case, I just want to give you an example of how efficient and how effective and how quick the coherence technique is, the one I'm going to share with you very, very shortly. In this particular case here, I was in a stressed, overwhelmed state, and I quickly connected up the M-Wave device and I started doing the quick coherence technique. And you can see very quickly, within 30 seconds, I went from a chaotic, erratic heart rhythm, okay, which is representing chaotic heart rhythms, chaotic communication between the heart, the brain and the nervous system, and pretty much the body misfiring on all cylinders, and an energy inefficiency with that. And it also represents when you're in this stress state as well. Remember, the emphasis has gone from the neurons, it's gone into the periphery, into the muscles and that, so you become less intelligent for that period. Okay, so you may recall some time when you were in this stress state where the blood was kind of drained, you could feel the blood draining from the head, and you make poor decisions, you get frustrated as a result, and you make bad decisions worse. Okay, We've all had these occasions. So it's a case of being able to intervene and stop and take control of the situation. And it's like having a fork in the road. You can either take the left fork, you can get overwhelmed, get stressed, and let the body be flooded with cortisol, become less intelligent for the period, and leave yourself open to things like chronic inflammation and chronic illnesses and diseases over time. Okay? Or you can choose to take the right hand path and use a quick coherence technique to get your body coherent again. So enough talking about it. Let's give it a go. So the Institute of Heart Math discovered that if you bring your awareness to the area around your heart by simply putting your hand on your chest, bring all your awareness to your hand resting on your chest so you get out of this prefrontal cortex. Couple that with a 10-second breathing cycle, they discovered you can get this whole body coherence going. Okay? So let's give it a go and I'll talk you through exactly what is happening. So just put your hand on your chest, bringing all your awareness to your hand resting on your chest, getting out of your headspace. Breathe in through your nose for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out through your mouth for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in through your nose again for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out through your mouth for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just keep that going. You've set the rhythm, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening here. So your body's going to start quickly generating a chemical or biochemical called DHEA, more commonly known, and we will refer to it as the vitality hormone. And this is what creates this coherent heart rhythm. Okay? You seen earlier on when you're in this chaotic state, your heart is in this kind of jagged, erratic waveform. Okay? But when you're coherent, the waveform or wave representation is going to be like a nice smooth sine wave, if you remember that from physics and maths. Okay? And that's representing the coherent heart rhythm, and that generates a coherent communication between the heart, the brain, and the nervous system, and all the subsystems, the hormonal, immune, respiratory, and digestive. The takeaway again is, in this coherent state, you have this whole body coherence, and as a result you get a whole body energetic efficiency, because your body's in this natural coherent state, and it's working for itself as one entity, not against itself. And you also have a whole body intelligence going here, because they've discovered with MRI technology that there's not just neurons in the brain, there's neurons in the heart, there's neurons in the gut, and there's groups of neurons around the body called ganglia. You don't need to remember much of this or any of this, just to understand that in this coherent state you get this whole body intelligence. The neurons are communicating efficiently around the body. Okay? So just keep that going. All your awareness in your hand resting on your chest, in for 5 into your nose and out for 5 through your mouth. And then what happens here is you're not only slowing your heart rate down to a nice steady 55-60 BPM, beats per minute, you're also slowing down your brain waves. Because when you're in this stress overwhelmed state, what's happening is your brain wave is pulsing at a very, very fast rate, and it's called high beta. Okay? So it's pulsing quite fast. This is just to give you an example. Okay? And if you start doing this coherent technique, it will slow down slightly into the low beta, which is where when you're functioning from your conscious mind, it's commenting, letting, labeling, striving. Okay? And you keep it going again, and it slows down even further into the alpha brainwave range. Okay? Okay? I'm sure you heard of the alpha brainwave range. Okay? And getting closer to the sweet spot, which is in between alpha and theta. Okay? Again, you don't need to know much about this, just to understand that this coherence technique will get you into an alert state of awareness and readiness, and get you close to that sweet spot, that you're able to jump into that flow state on demand, which we'll get onto shortly. But we need some triggers to get that going. Okay? So just keep that going, and I'm going to explain a little more detail what's happening. So as we know, we're going to get a whole body coherence going, a whole body intelligence, and a whole body energetic efficiency as a result. Okay? So our brain is nice and calm, our body's nice and calm, our nervous system is nice and calm, and basically our body is vibrating or resonating as one entity now. Okay? To be very specific, 0.1 of a heart. Okay? Next we move on to creative visualization or visualization, more commonly known in the sports psychology world as the mental rehearsal. And It is used because it gives you the opportunity to create mental images in your mind of what the activity, event, or challenge you're going to encounter. Okay, so you can see the outcome clearly in your mind as if it's already happened. And what this does is it allows you to preempt any challenges you may face, so you can put in place any control measures or any necessary adjustments that need to be made. It also, because you put yourself into the environment that you're likely to be in this event or activity, it basically takes a lot of the anxiety away, because it's like if you're going to perform on stage, or if you're going to perform in a particular stadium, or if you're going to if you're doing an exam, or if you're doing a presentation. If you visualize yourself in that exact environment, you may not always know the exact environment, but a typical environment, you can visualize yourself going through the whole process, and you can visualize it going absolutely the way you desire it. You can visualize the exact required outcome, and this will take the anxiety out of it, because you've in your head been in the environment, you have experienced the desired outcome in terms of maybe the response, if it's music, or if it's a play, or if it's a presentation, the crowd enjoying the experience and getting a lot from the experience. And in terms of sports, you can visualize the desired outcome in terms of winning, or in terms of putting on a great performance yourself. Okay, so visualization is fantastic for visualizing what you want to achieve over the course of your day. You can break it down even to smaller chunks, what you want to achieve over a 90-minute period, or you can break it down even further into visualizing moving slightly in advance, which is fantastic for martial arts and pretty much anything. So it's where you're visualizing movement slightly in advance, not monitoring the movement, but visualizing it slightly in advance. And this brings a certain amount of effortlessness and eventually perfection into your movement, which we'll get on to later on. Okay, so this is the micro side of visualization. The macro side of visualization is visualizing what you need to achieve over the course of your day, week, month, year, quarter, over the course of your life, and so forth. Okay, so we'll get into that later on when we look at visualizing what you need to achieve over the course of the day in the daily routine for peak performance. Okay, so just to get an understanding of this, so your hand is in your chest, all your awareness is in your hand in your chest, you're breathing in through your nose for 5, out through your mouth for 5, and then we can visualize what we want to achieve over the next while, over the next period, whether that be 90 minutes or over the course of the day, or beyond. We visualize it clearly as if it's already happened. That's absolutely key. We visualize it, the mental imagery needs to be as if it's already happened. And then we need to fearlessly expect to achieve that outcome. Fearlessly expect to achieve that outcome. Okay? And then we need to detach from that outcome. Detach in the sense of detach or let go of the outcome, accept it, good, bad, or indifferent. We need to detach from how we will feel or be perceived if it goes well or not. And we need to detach from any doubts or negativity that might cross our mind. Okay? What this does is allows us to focus all our energy and all our efforts on the process of what we're trying to achieve. Okay? So this is where we might break our goal down into the particular activity or event. We visualize exactly what we want to achieve, fearlessly expecting to achieve it, and then we detach from the outcome, how we will feel or be perceived, and we detach from any doubts or negativity. And this will allow us to focus all our energy and effort on the process of achieving our goal. And this is widely used in sports. In particular, a lot of PGA golfers will use it. So they will step up to take a shot. They will visualize exactly where they want the ball to land. They will, as if it's already happened now, and they will fearlessly expect that to happen. They will detach from the outcome. They'll accept the shot if it goes well or not. They will detach from how they will feel or be perceived if it goes well or not. And they will detach from any doubts and negativity. So detaching allows them to take this weight of expectation, this burden off their shoulders that will drain our energy and will also get the conscious mind going, the commenting, latching, labeling, and striving, this limiting conscious mind. Limited in terms of it's not your whole body intelligence, it's only a small part of it. And if you allow it to become dominant, it will Play back all the bad shots you had previously, or maybe the last time you played this hole, or maybe the last shot was bad, and that's going to run around in your mind. Okay, it's limiting in terms of what you feed into the conscious mind in terms of your self chatter, your inner talk, will determine or will have a bearing on the outcome as well. So if you are telling yourself, oh, I'm not great in these range shots, that's going to have a bearing. But by being able to detach from the outcome and how you will feel or be perceived and any doubts and negativity, you can focus just purely on what you're trying to achieve. You can get out of your own way, which is getting out of your own way in terms of shutting down the prefrontal cortex. Okay. Now, there's studies in the flow state that tell us that when people are in the flow state, the MRI technology tells us that this prefrontal cortex, this conscious mind, is very inactive. It's bypassed pretty much. There's nothing lighting up in the brain at all there. And that's because you got more of a whole body intelligence going, and this is not dominant anymore. And you're getting out of your own way, and you're letting your skills and your honed skills and your hours of practice to flow through you at the right time. And timing is everything in flow. Okay, so going back to again to visualization, and see, I'm hoping that you can see how important visualization could be in terms of any event, activity or challenge. Okay, so it's great, as we say, for what you want to achieve over the course of the day or the next 90 minutes. We'll be breaking our day down into small chunks later on, and for any particular activity, event or challenge. Okay, so another side of visualization as well is there's a thing called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its own structure by continuously doing an activity. And to give you an example, go back to golf again. If you practice golf maybe for an hour a day, what will happen is you're forming neural pathways by doing a particular swing. Okay, you're committing to muscle memory. You're also committing to the subconscious mind, which we'll go on to later on. But after about 7 or 8 weeks, the structure of the brain starts to change. The neural pathways start to form to allow the communication between the neurons to happen during the swing. Okay, so you're, in effect, in a simplistic way, you're creating super highways for super fast communication between the neurons to allow this particular activity to take place. Okay, and driving is probably a better example. When you're learning how to drive first, you're doing an awful lot of conscious thinking. You're thinking of the mirrors, you're thinking of your hands on the wheel, you're thinking of other cars, pedestrians, your instructor. There's a lot of tunnel vision processing, and it can be quite anxious and quite strenuous. Then after a number of weeks, it's starting to become second nature, and after about 7 to 8 weeks, then you're starting to enjoy the process. You're getting out of your own way. It's starting to, you've committed it to muscle memory. You've changed the structure of the brain sufficiently to be able to drive without focusing on every single activity with this tunnel vision, with this conscious mind. This is where the subconscious mind now is starting to blend with the conscious mind, and you're getting into the flow of the activity, which is driving. Okay, so back to visualization and neuroplasticity. They've discovered that if you visualize doing an activity or event or a challenge, your brain doesn't actually know you're not physically doing the activity, and it will form the neural pathways after 7 to 8 weeks. Okay, there's a great study where 4 Olympic athlete teams were involved in a research project where the first did 100% physical training, no mental training. The second did 75% physical training, 25% mental training. The third did 50-50, and the fourth did 75% mental training and 25% physical training. And the fourth outperformed the other 3 significantly. Okay, so what we might do over the next few days is get used to getting coherent, getting out of that incoherent state, so you can, instead of being overwhelmed, stressed, overthinking, overreacting and so forth, you bring your hand on your chest, get out of your headspace, bring all your awareness and your hand resting on your chest, in for 5 and breathe out for 5. Do that for 5 minutes to get a whole body intelligence going, a whole body coherence going, a whole body energetic efficiency. And then start to visualize what you need to achieve over the course of the day as if it's already happened. See the mental imagery clearly in your mind. And you can also do that for smaller periods of say 90 minutes, which we'll look at in a lot of detail next time. And it's, you visualize what you want to achieve over the course of that 90 minutes, fearlessly expecting to achieve it, and then detach from the outcome. Accept it, good, bad or indifferent. Detach from how you'll feel or be perceived, if it goes well or not, and then detach from any doubts or negativity. Okay, so just over the next few days, get used to that, getting coherent, visualizing what you need to achieve over the next period, fearlessly expecting to achieve it, and then detaching, allowing yourself to focus all your efforts and all your energy on the process of achieving your goals, not the unnecessary interferences and distractions that will get you overwhelmed in terms of overthinking things and overreacting and getting in that stress state where the body floods itself with cortisol, and you get less intelligent for that period, where the emphasis goes on all your muscles rather than where it's draining out of your neurons, and you basically can make situations worse, okay, where you get frustrated and agitated because things are not going the way you expect them. You can't think things through logically, okay. So I'll see you in a few days. Give it a go, take your time at it, don't push it, don't put any pressure on yourself. Just use it to get coherent whenever you feel incoherent or stressed or anything like that, or even just to get used to it in the mornings. Just get up in the mornings, do it for 5 minutes, visualize what you want to achieve over the course of the day, fearlessly expect to achieve it, and then detach from the outcome and go about your day, then just going with the flow of it, and just get used to that. And then what we'll do next week, then we'll look at getting into the flow state. So you're now in this state, you will be in a state of alert readiness and awareness, ready to go into that flow state on demand whenever you feel like going into it, okay, whenever you need to go into it for high value activities, okay. So next week into high peak performance on demand, and also recovery techniques, because you can't perform at that peak level indefinitely, especially when you're generating the biochemistry and neurotransmitters. Your body doesn't have an endless supply of them, so you need to allow your body time to recover and to replenish them, so you can go on for the next phase of high value activities. So it's all about go high peak recovery, high peak recovery, high peak recovery, and fitting as many of them into your day as possible, and finding the right periods in the day that suits you within your constraints in terms of the time you need to be in work at and time you need to go home at and so forth, so you can get the high productivity going quite easily. So I'm Tony Vaughan, have a great few days, and I'll talk to you in a few days. Take care, bye.